So, how do we get there? There are different ways of getting there. You get there when you are not conscious of it actually. The moment you try very hard to get there, you don't get there because you're hard trying. When all trying ceases, when everything is quiet, then you're there. That's why the Upanishad said, let go and rejoice. Tena tyaktena bhunjita. Let go and rejoice. Okay, suppose this what you seek, this happiness, this truth, suppose it is there where the camera is kept, suppose. I am here and I am seeking it and I am going towards it. This is when it is there and not here. What happens if it is everywhere? How do I go? How do I go to something which is everywhere? I can't. So how do I get there? You can't. Then what happens when I stop going? When the mind stops going in this direction or that direction or any direction, when it stops, then you understand that which the Upanishads have described as tad dure tad vadantike. It is so far and it is so near. In us. So the moment we stop that movement, unfortunately, believe me, it's not easy to stop. I've tried hard many years before some progress could be made, but it's not so easy to do that. Why? Because the mind is always accustomed to grope and to reach out. But there is one way. We believe that the human body and mind, you all know that, are controlled by various energies in our system. You can call it prana, you can call it what you want, but there is an energy in all of us. And that energy is linked intimately to a thought process also. When this energy goes one-pointedly in the direction of the inner, then everything ceases and you are gone back to your source. That's your real source. Everything else is incidental. The real source is that which is in us as pure consciousness. A great devotee, not even a yogi, not even a Vedantin, a great devotee once said, well, I saw you and I was not there anymore, only you. So the main obstacle to that is me. As much as I am the essence, the greatest obstacle is also me. My individual me that says I am this, I am not that, I am so and so is different from me. That individual is the cause of the problem of not finding the real me is the me itself. Does it sound like a contradiction or no? It may not sound like a contradiction to some of you who have heard me many times, because you would have already labeled it and said, I said it. So all those who have heard me for many years, please hear me as if you hear me for the first time. Don't associate it what we said in Dubai 2 years ago, please. Move. Now, the great yogi, master of yogis, Patanjali, composed this beautiful text called the Yoga Sutras. When you say sutras, it means they're aphorisms. And when he is asked, what is the meaning of yoga? How do you define yoga? Patanjali said, yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. Which means yoga is the seizing or destroying of all the distractions in the mind stuff. Which means, normally the mind is always distracted. I want this, therefore I have to be away from that. I want that, so I have to be away from this. I want this as against that. I love this person, so I hate the other person who this person seems to love. We always live in these contradictions and distractions. When I want when I want to meditate on my inner self, I am meditating on the outer self. When I think I am appreciating somebody outside, suddenly my mind turns inside. This is the way we live. I am driving, suddenly I want to meditate. Distraction, contradiction. When I want to sit to meditate, no, I cannot. It's only when I am driving, now danger to myself and to people on the road. So, is there a state of mind that has no contradictions, which relaxes, which has no distractions, which is purely as it is, without any modifications? This is the word used by Patanjali, modifications. There are no modifications. The mind in its original state, before it became distracted, I don't know who made it distracted, but before it got distracted, in that state, it's called the state of yoga. It need not necessarily happen because you practice yoga, pranayamas, which is also one way. Kriya yoga is one of the ways, I agree. But it can also happen with people who are so simple, who know no yoga, nothing, who simply have devotion towards a divine being. It can happen to them without any of these things, without any paraphernalia. They are so absorbed in that they can't remember themselves, and therefore no contradictions which are in oneself appear. But then one has to be probably born like that, I don't know. Everybody cannot do that. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, the great teacher of Swami Vivekananda, when he was a young man, he was just walking on the paddy fields, eating a little bit of, what is that thing that they eat? Popcorn-like thing. Yeah, muri. And then he suddenly looked up. It was a rainy kind of day. It was not raining, it was cloudy. There was a dark cloud. Suddenly, a flock of white cranes flew across. There was no bhajan, there was no kirtan, there was no yogi, nothing, okay? Young man going with eating muri and looking up suddenly and seeing a flock of white cranes flying across the dark cloud. He simply said, and fell down. Born sensitive. So many of us have seen dark clouds and white birds. I remember traveling in the upper reaches of the Himalayas with ex-royal family. And there was this big mountain, and there were this beautiful mountain sheep sitting there, white and lovely looking, flashy things. I thought, let me meditate for a while, and now a man said, I wish I had a gun. Two ways of looking at the sheep. So now, see the difference between Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and our man. The same vision, roughly the same. Dark mountains, white sheep, dark clouds, white cranes. One says, and falls down in a deep state of superconscious. The other says, if I had a gun, I would have got some meat. Angle how you look at things. So now, look at Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. This is what I'm going to come to. Perhaps for years, many lives of sadhana, if you believe in other lives, sadhana, this man had reached a state of perfection, consciousness of mind, by which even a small thing, a contrast in outside world could induce samadhi, state of superconsciousness. It's not easy. So, one hint is, it requires hard work, perhaps for many lives. The other is, good news is, who knows how many lives you have gone through? You don't know. One day the switch may turn, you say, I've seen all this. That's the other side of the story. So, even through bhakti, a complete absorption in the divinity, one can reach that inner self. Again, taking Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's case, he started his spiritual life worshipping the Mother Goddess. And that too, Mother Goddess in a terrible form, Bhadrakali. Now, there's nothing to worry, because actually, Bhadrakali reflects the state of affairs in this world, actually as it is. It's terrible. It's terrible. Her tongue is out, there's blood dripping. This is the world. Among the Dasha Mahavidyas, the first one is Bhadrakali. Ramakrishna started his life worshipping this goddess as the Supreme. I want to refer 2 points here. One is, there is, all these Dasha Mahavidyas, they come under a particular section called the Tantra. Now I have to be careful, because when you say Tantra, people immediately think of orgies, drunken orgies in cremation grounds. Not really. If you want to know the real meaning of the word Tantra, why we are saying this is because the yoga, the Kriya Yoga is also part of what we call a Yoga Tantra. Not ritualistic Tantra, but Yoga Tantra. If you want to know a basic idea of Tantra, I would recommend that you read this beautiful book called Introduction to Tantra, available fortunately in English by Sir John Woodroffe. So it's not all that kind of drunken orgies in cremation grounds. It deals with human beings as they are and how to transform them. This is the real meaning of the word Tantra. So, in the Dasha Mahavidyas, one of the Vidyas we deal with in Kriya, so we'll come to that. Dasha Mahavidyas, talking about Kali, describe her, the goddess whom Ramakrishna worshipped, as there are many descriptions. I don't want to go into the whole thing. Karalavadanam Ghoram Mukta Keshim Chadurbhujam Kalikam Dakshinam Divyam. Last line is very important. Mundamala Vibhushitam. People say, what kind of a goddess is this? She wears a garland of human heads. Terrible. Must be the devil. Mundamala Vibhushitam, one who has a garland of human heads on her neck. Now, if you want to approach the real Kali, which is the essence of life, you should be ready to add your head to the garland. Not physically. And what is this head? Ego. Oh, and her little thoughts. And who had the greatest ego? One who had 10 heads. You read the Valmiki Ramayana, after Ravana dies, Rama says, here was an excellent man, a great Kshatriya type of man. He may be an Asura, but he was a great Bhakta of Rama. What was his fault? The only fault was his ego. What is the indication of 10 heads? Actually, we all have more than 10 heads. We have one image for the wife, one image for the boss, one image for all different heads. If you cut off one, the other will come on. We've tried that, right? So you need a Rama to do that. And what you need is a bow and arrow, proper. Anyway, we'll come to that later. So, this is not a discourse on the Ramayana. So Ramakrishna started his spiritual life worshipping the terrible goddess Kali. And he was a man who really hung his head, gave it up as a garland to Kali. So I tell people, don't read Ramakrishna's biography and pretend to be Sri Ramakrishna and go before the mother goddess, take away everything, I only want you. When she starts pulling the rug from under your feet, you'll say, please stop it, I can't do it, I'm not ready for it. Only such people can do that. Anyway, after all the sadhana, the first vision he had of Kali, if you have read or heard, what did he see? He didn't see Kali, he didn't see the form, he saw light and bliss, and he lost consciousness. He didn't see the figure. What he saw was light which was like billowing like waves of light and waves of bliss. He lost consciousness, he simply said, Ma, and fell down. What I'm trying to say, that infinite consciousness, which is blissful and full of light, can also be approached through devotion to a deity. This is what I'm trying to say. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is a perfect case in this matter. Later on, of course, he did many other sadhanas. Okay, that's one side. There was a young man who was not very interested in his education or so on, in the south of India, not this fellow. And one evening, after being scolded for not studying for his exams, he went into his room and lay down. He was hardly 14, 15. And then he suddenly said, well, I am not this body. He didn't worship any being or any Kali or any mother, nothing. It's a different kind, different type, let's say. Different types of sadhakas. He went to his room and he suddenly said to himself, I am going to die. It appeared to him. There are many people who say that, but they are not Ramana Maharshis. Immediate psychiatric attention is essential. But he lay down and he said, I am going to die. And he said, okay, I am dead now. My body is dead. If my body is dead, then what am I? See, when I wear clothes, now you identify me and my clothes. When you see me wearing this, you say, this is M is coming. God knows what he's going to teach this crazy guy. Hey, he's coming, he's wearing his. So I'm identified with the clothes I'm wearing. But when I go back to my room, I take this off and hang it. That's why I always lock my door, I don't like clothes. And then M is different from his clothes. But when I wear it, it's part of me. So this young man said, I'm dying. So he lay down, as he has seen dead bodies lie down. Okay, he said, the body is dead, is being taken to the cremation grounds. Where am I? Well, I have not died. But he actually had an experience where he saw his body lying there. And he was free of it. There's another way of looking at this same thing. He found out, then later on he said, I am a spark, I am part of that supreme, all-pervading, blissful reality. I am not this body. Another approach. So, there are different approaches to this reality, but what you note, a commonality is that the mind is free of distractions, is one-pointed, and it breaks forth from the little cage that it has built for itself. This is common. Now, looking at it a little technically, we say that the human body, not only the physical body, because there is this Sthula Sharira, the physical body, there is the Shushma Sharira, the subtle body. There are many layers of mind. We say that in every human being, male or female, young or old, there is an energy which is usually not active, which is asleep. It's symbolized by the snake. It's symbolized by a rolled up snake at the bottom of the spine, which the yogis and the yoga tantras describe as the Mooladhara, root foundation, Mula Adhara. And there it lies in all human beings, either through devotion or through the practice of techniques of yoga, and through purifying the mind, or through understanding the higher levels of Vedanta. Depends on who you are, how many lives you have gone through, what you have studied, what's your background, and so on. Depends. So whatever be the method adopted, one day this sleeping energy wakes up. It's interesting, first it opens one eye and then it goes back. Then it opens the other eye. So first the Ida, then the Pingala, then it relaxes. Then one day it says, enough, and wakes up. Then the Kali begins to dance. And dancing along the Sushumna, with her bare knife glinting, goes straight up and meets her Lord in the head, the Sahasrara, where Shiva sits till now in peace, till she comes dancing along. And then there is a merger of this energy which is in us with that energy which is also in us, which has been described by Adi Shankara as the Saundarya Lahari, the ecstasy of all beauty. This can happen in many ways. This is what I am trying to say. It need not necessarily be through Kriya Yoga. It can be through Bhakti, it can be through Jnana, it can be through Tantra, it can be through many, there are different ways. I think as many number of people on this earth, there might be so many different approaches. We can't say only this. Or it could be a combination of all this. This happens, then our consciousness is lifted from the ordinary to the extraordinary. From getting caught up in little trinkets, we reach for the treasure. From enjoying little joys, we go to the source of all enjoyment. When you touch the source of all enjoyment, then you are free. No more bound. Binding comes only when you are dependent on something for your happiness. You are bound, you are free. All the ropes are cut, no handcuffs anymore. You are free as the wind that blows. And sometimes as she wakes up and moves, there is a sound like the breeze, like a strong wind blowing. Queen, up. So, there are many ways of doing this. My parampara is Kriya, that's all. I am not saying this is the only way and everybody has to do it, no. If you are interested, I teach, it's up to you. I also feel that even if you are involved in other disciplines through which you want to reach the Supreme, you can add Kriya to the and go. There is no contradiction there. Because we believe or we understand that, we will say that in the next session. 10:30, started at 9:30, 1 hour, digest this along with a cup of tea, and then we come back at 10:30. Then 10:30 to 11:30. I want you to be theoretically quite understand this perfectly before we go into any practicals. So let's use this day. Fair? Not fair? Huh? You don't have to agree with me. Okay? I believe this young man.